to the first ever live event for first generation entrepreneurs. This event kicks off a series of strategy sessions, as I'm calling it, where each week I interview a subject matter expert on their area of expertise. And my goal is just to extract some golden nuggets, if you will, that I can then share with first gen entrepreneurs. As a first gen myself, I've made a ton of mistakes that have cost me lots of time, lots of money, and lots of heartache over the years. And so I figure if we can pool our knowledge together, it'll just help all of us as we each try to grow our respective businesses. Now, this week, I have as my guest Amanda Garasio. Amanda is a brand strategist and a designer. She's been in the design world for over 16 years now. And what does she do? She helps clarify the messy brain dumps around what you want your brand to be, and then translates those abstract ideas into concrete, aligned visuals through her proven branding process. So I'd like to welcome Amanda to the show. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.
Yeah. So Amanda, I put up a post earlier this morning.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, setting the stage for this. And I got a couple of interesting comments from a few folks. And if you're here listening in on the show, please feel free to leave a comment or say hello. But basically, a couple of ones that stood out to me. One person said, branding, isn't that what people do to cattle? And so that's one possibility. Another person said, branding is just a buzzword. That's all it is. It doesn't really mean anything. And I've had another person say, it really isn't that. It's just your logo, right? So let's get right into it from the expert yourself. What is branding exactly?
Okay, so I look at branding as really being comprised of 5 different parts, and they all work together. So yes, it is more than just your logo. I know even as a designer, I'm saying that it's more than just your logo. So it starts with your core brand. That's probably one of those buzzwords you've heard are going around to the core brand. And that's really kind of the heart of your business. You know, why you're here, your mission, your purpose, your vision and goals for it, what makes you unique, the qualities you want to be known for, the personality you want to give off, you know, like all of those kind of ideas, the background behind your business. So that's your core brand. Then building on top of that is the visual. Okay. And the core brand kind of guides everything. It steers everything. Like once you know what you're trying to communicate, it gives direction to all the other pieces. So the visual is what people think of as, you know, the logo, the colors, the fonts, the layouts, the design pieces. You know, that's the other area I work in with branding too. But then you also have the verbal. So this is how you communicate, both in written words and spoken words. So in your emails, in your contracts, in your social media posts, on the phone, in speaking engagements, you know, the kind of tone and vocabulary you use. And then on top of that is the experiential. So the actual experience you provide to people when they work with you. And this can be everything from, you know, onboarding, your sales process, depending if you have a service or a product, like the process of working with you or the process of using the product, you know, troubleshooting, customer service, all of that is tied into experience. And then the very tip of the brand pyramid is reputational. So this is the general public's opinion of your business based on, you know, word of mouth, referrals, reviews, press coverage, all that. They haven't directly worked with you, but they have heard of you and they have some sort of opinion. So all of that together is branding. And it really starts with the core brand because that helps you shape all the other pieces.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. So to me, I think when I was first starting my business, one of the first things that I do, I don't know if I'm a kind of a graphic designer at heart. I certainly don't have the ability for it, but I geek out on kind of like how your logo looks and how the website looks. And that's just something that I tend to maybe obsess over even a little bit. But the mistake that I make is getting so hung up on just the way something looks. And what I haven't done is really thought out, you know, what's the purpose behind it. and how is this actually going to help my business? Because the truth is nobody is really going to care as much as you do about some of those smaller details, but the bigger picture things I think matter more. So can you talk just a little bit about, what the point is ultimately behind branding?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say you're not unusual in that. A lot of people, when they start their business, they get kind of like, oh, get my logo, get my website up, and they kind of skip the strategy step. So the whole strategy behind branding, the reason it exists, the reason it's important, is it's about communicating to your ideal audience why they should choose you. Okay, because they have a lot of other options. So it's really about, what are those other options? How do you compare to them? Why should they choose you? Who are they? Who are you actually talking to? What motivates them? Like, speak to, what's important to them and why you fit with that. So it's outward facing. It's more about making sure you're communicating to your audience why they should pick you. That's really the heart of what the point of branding is.
Okay.
And the visual things like your logo, those are just touch points to help people remember you. They're souvenirs, I guess, of the brand experience.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes a ton of sense. Like, it, to me, as a first gen entrepreneur, if you don't at least have that vision of, kind of what you want this to be, it's almost similar to, I don't know, if you just got in the car and just started driving, but you didn't actually have a destination mapped out.
Yes.
Might be fine for a Sunday afternoon drive, but if you're actually trying to get somewhere, you probably should have a destination picked out. So that really is the point of branding, which I think drives home that it is more than a logo, that it needs to have purpose, and that it's not, in fact, just what they do to cows. So that's good. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my next question then, is how do you figure out what your core brand is?
Okay. Yeah. So the first step would be to just carve out some time, hour, 2 hours, whatever, and actually sit down and think through, like, what am I building with my business? What do I want this brand to be? What makes me different? What are my short-term goals and long-term goals? What is my purpose for having this business? Like, why am I actually doing this and not, working in a bookstore somewhere or something, and also, like, who am I trying to reach? Who is my ideal person? What are their pain points? Where are they at on their journey that my business comes in and helps them get to where they want to get? All these sorts of questions. You got to sit down and, like, think about what you actually want that to be, because that's the beauty of being a business owner, is you get to build it into whatever you want, but you have to actually, like, sit down and figure out what that is first. Or, like you said, it's kind of like just driving with no map. You don't know where you're trying to get. You don't know. You might end up somewhere fun, but the chances are. So
Right.
you really have to carve out time to figure out what you want your brand to be.
Now, do you ever run into clients or potential clients who it's like they might have some idea of what they want it to be, but they don't know what they don't know, and sometimes it kind of results in, maybe some gaps there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why figuring out the core brand is, like, the first step of working with me before we ever get to design work, because I feel that it's that important. And even just, that step alone, I have people come away from that going, oh my gosh, I understand my business so much better now. I have so much clarity. That was like brand therapy, like figuring all that out. So yeah, I have, kind of like a master list of questions that I walk them through, and we hash out the answers together and kind of fill in any gaps.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And see, that's kind of reinforces, it was an ongoing joke at my IT business. My couple of my right-hand men, if you will, the guys that were helping me figure a lot of this out as I go. It was like an ongoing joke that we would sometimes find, like, for a business idea, we'd come up with a name or like a logo, and then try to build a business model to fit that, not the other way around. And it was
Yeah.
almost comical.
Yeah, and that's actually something I've helped with too. Like if people come to me and they don't have a business name yet, you can, use all of that core brand information to help you come up with a really, powerful business name, one that really feels like it fits and captures the idea better.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So my last question that I've got for you, and for anybody who's listening, feel free to put in the chat if you've got any questions around branding. We'll be taking some questions afterward if you've got some. So feel free to type that in there, and we'll come back to those. But my last question, formally for you, Amanda, is how do you use your core brand?
Yeah. So, okay. Once you, taken that time, sat down, written down all of your core brand, what you're trying to achieve with your brand, what do you want it to be, all of that. Then you use that as kind of the guide for other areas of your business. So, like for me with design, we take those ideas, the qualities you want to be known for, the personality you want to get off, the audience you're trying to reach, and we use those to kind of filter and focus our design direction. So we say, okay, you said you want your business to be this and this and this. Does this design concept accomplish that? It really just, and the same can be done with, copy, with marketing, with, opportunities that come your way. If that, you can measure, does it fit with the values I wanted my brand to stand for? It just kind of helps you filter your decisions, because then, you don't have 1,000 options to consider. You might just have 2 or 3 that accomplish what you want. It really kind of streamlines your business building, because you can just discard all the options that don't line up with what you're trying to build. So for example, if let's just say you want, one of the qualities you want your business to be known for is modern. Okay, well, that's going to have a certain aesthetic. You're not going to use, old timey colors or like old Western fonts or like things like that. It's going to be more clean. It's going to be more tech look. It's going to have a certain kind of color palette. And the words you use, it's going to line up with that too. It's going to kind of affect like all these things, and the different combination of ideas from your core brand, they combine in different ways, and you end up with a unique brand. Because, like there's, tons of businesses that say they want to be modern, but then you take in, but they also want to be friendly and be known as like eco-sustainable and like other ideas. So it's really the combination of all those. You use those to kind of guide you, and you come up with something that's unique and wholly you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think there's an adage that a confused mind always says no, right? And that's usually, I think, applied to marketing concepts and sales and just kind of what your messaging is. But I
Mm-hmm.
imagine that to probably a larger extent than what you might think is that your visuals down to the fonts that you're using and the look of your logo is conveying a message. And if it's contradictory or it doesn't really align with the rest of it, it could serve to kind of confuse your audience.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things I say too. Like you want to make sure the choices you make for your visuals, for your copy, for your messaging, they all line up with that. Otherwise, you're sending mixed messages. And like you said, that confuses people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got one question here. This is
Okay.
from Leisha. She says, if you have the ideas and everything, what is your first step? Like where should you actually get going? And let me just, before you answer that comment, Leisha, like that resonates with me, because I feel like I've got more ideas than I have time in the day. And it's really kind of hard to know where to start. And that's why talking to experts who've been at this a long time is helpful. So I'll let you take it, Amanda.
Yeah. So if you've already, I don't know if you mean by ideas, like you have a lot of ideas and need help getting that core brand, or if you mean you already have the ideas of your core brand figured out. So if it's the first one, definitely like sit down and actually clarify your answers for your core brand. If you've already done that step, then I look at it, those 5 parts of branding that I talked about at the beginning, the core brand, the visual, the verbal, the experiential, the reputational. I look at them as a pyramid. So they all build on each other. So for the core brand is the bottom, that's the core of everything. And the next step is the visual, because that's how you're going to show up everywhere. That's what people see before they even hear a word you speak or read a word that you write. Like that visual is that first impression. So that to me is the next step after the core brand.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, well, Leisha, I hope that answered your question, and stay tuned because we've got a little more coming on that I think would be a useful resource for you. I just want to give a shout out to my buddy, Andy Runyon, who said, "Great point, Andrew. Font snob here. Say that 3 times fast." But Andy, great minds think alike. I think we're both there. Do you experience that yourself a lot, Amanda?
Oh, I am a total. I don't know that I'm a font snob. I'm a font junkie. It's kind of embarrassing how many fonts I have on my computer. But it is kind of funny because I do find myself like gravitating towards the same kind of set of maybe like 50 as the ones that I remember, because I have so many, I can't remember all of them, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm almost embarrassed to say how much time I spend on my LinkedIn banner. I use Canva as my personal thing because, again, I'm not a graphic designer. I don't have any actual skills. So that made like Canva like the best thing in the world to me because I can just iterate on
Canva
these
is
things.
great. And
I
the
love
cool
it.
thing is, once you have, co-brand and then you figure out your design, whether you work with a designer or doing it yourself. If you have your brand guidelines, this is my logo. These are the colors I'm using. These are the fonts I'm using. You can load that right into Canva. They have like a brand kit section. And so whenever you like create a new text box, it's already in one of your brand fonts. You can like grab your logo easy. You can grab your colors easily. That makes it so much quicker. Like I love Canva. Like I know a lot of designers were like, oh, when Canva came on the scene. But like I use Canva for my own social media posts.
Okay.
It's so quick and easy.
It is so easy. It's ridiculous. Like I've tried getting into some of the Adobe products and stuff before, but unless you're formally trained in a lot of those, it's really it's a steep learning curve. At least that's the impression that I get. Oh, go ahead.
I will say Canva is great for things like, social media posts, social media headers, like quick things like that. You got to be careful if you're using that for logo design, because if you pull like, one of those like icon elements or whatever from Canva, you cannot trademark it. So if that's ever something you want to do down the line, you cannot trademark a logo that you made in Canva. So just something.
Whoops. Okay. All right. I'm going to need to keep that in mind. If you look in the top of your screen where it says firstgen.biz, that is all Canva, just fonts and me slapping stuff together. And this is why, yet again, you need actual professionals to guide you when it comes to growing your business. So I'll probably be hitting you up for some help on that, Amanda.
Hey, happy to help. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Look, we've got another, it doesn't put a name to it, but another, vote for Canva here. I just, I don't know. For me in the early days, I had a graphic designer. This was back in like 2006 to come up with my logo. And I was just wearing her out with revisions. You could tell she was just like, if I have to take another phone call or email from this Andrew guy, I'm going to lose my mind. So that's why I love playing around in Canva until the wee hours of the night, tweaking stuff endlessly.
And that's why having that core brand helps too. Like once I started doing that work with my clients, like we have some solid goalposts to aim for. There's no endless revisions anymore because we can say, okay, yeah, this accomplishes what we're trying to say with the branding. So like I rarely go beyond, I think maybe 2 rounds of very small revisions and tweaks now because we have that core brand to guide what we're doing. So, yeah, it's super helpful.
Yeah. So let me ask you, this is a bonus question, just thinking off the top of my head, but, presumably some of the folks out there that, are first gen entrepreneurs, they've already got a logo. They've already got, some revenue coming in. They've built a small business, but they're looking to grow. Is it too late at that point to start thinking about a brand?
No. It's never too late. So yeah, I'll get into that more in a minute, but even if you like sit down and figure out your core brand and you got your brand guidelines and stuff, like you're going to want to check in with that every maybe like 2 years or so, or whenever some big pivot is happening, because it's going to evolve as you evolve, as your business evolves. And you can change it. Again, it's your business. The beauty of being a business owner is you can build what you want to build. So it will evolve as you evolve. So if it comes time to rebrand, like if you're thinking, oh, we've pivoted, we changed our services, we changed our audience, something, or it just doesn't feel like your branding fits, or, you kind of just patchworked it together to get up and running at the beginning and didn't have strategy behind it, and now you're ready for that strategic angle, any of that. Yeah, a rebrand is absolutely possible. It's kind of the same thing. You sit down, you work through the core brand exercise, and then you use that to guide the design direction. And it may be that you just need a few tweaks. You may just need to like revise the logo a little bit, and it could be fine. Or, you may need to like completely start over and throw everything out. But it just kind of depends on your specific brand and how much has changed and how on point you were when you first put your stuff together. Right. So,
well, and I think that's true of a lot of businesses. Like I had one customer in particular who what they did when they started their business versus what they did today were two completely different things. And it was because somewhere along the way they got some opportunity and they said, oh, well, let's try it. And then it turned out that this new thing worked so well that kind of became their new business model. Now that's an extreme example, but it just goes to show how business is constantly evolving, and it would make sense that every couple of years or whenever it makes logical sense that you would kind of revisit that and see if any realignment is needed.
Yeah, so. I mean, even me as somebody specializing in branding and design, this logo above me, Studio Gracio, that's the third logo Studio Gracio's had, because I've refined and kind of honed in on stuff over the years too, and evolved. So it's perfectly natural part of the process. You don't have to like figure it out once and it's set in stone and oh my God, it never changes and now I'm in this box. Like, no, it can grow with you.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. All right. Awesome. Well, so in terms of what we have to offer here, I mentioned this earlier, I think, to Leisha. I put this down in the ticker, which now that I've done it is maybe not the best idea because it's literally a moving target while you're trying to write this down or look at it. So we'll chalk that up to a first gen mistake for the guy doing the live event for the first time. But if you want to get in touch with Amanda, she's on LinkedIn. You can look up her name there and connect with her there. And I'm sure, Amanda, you'll back me up on this. You'd be more than happy to share this resource. But can you describe a little bit what this link is that I put down in the ticker below?
So I have a free download called Branding Brainstorm, 20 questions to clarify your business. So it is literally, a kind of streamlined version of the questions I walk my clients through to help figure out their core brand. So if you need to do that step, if you're ready for that strategy, if you need the space to sit down and figure out your core brand and you just don't even know what questions you're supposed to be answering, like this will do that for you. So go to that URL down there and then you can download it and that'll help you get started.
All right. So last question. This is a curveball. You did not prepare for this one.
Okay.
But for a first gen entrepreneur, so someone who is the first person in their family to start a business, that oftentimes means that they don't know what they don't know. And they're learning things as they go. That's who I am. I've got plenty of bumps and bruises and scrapes and scars. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so with that audience in mind, do you have any kind of final tips for them as it pertains to branding?
Yeah, I would say especially if you're a solopreneur, I know it's tempting to just throw together something you like use your favorite color, use your favorite font. But I really want to challenge you to keep in mind that it's always about talking to your audience. Like that we talked about earlier, the point of branding is communicating to your audience. So you want what you develop to be outward facing. You want it to be based on that kind of strategy and not necessarily your personal preferences. Yes, you should still like it. You should still be happy with your branding, but it's not about just throwing your favorite things together and running with that. So try to keep that little separation, I guess, between self and business.
That makes perfect sense. We did get one more question there in the comments.
Okay.
I think is a good one. This is from Christian. Ask the question, Amanda, budget question. What is a good starting budget for a basic branding plan? Now, whenever someone asks me a question about budget, I always say less than $1 million. So
Yes, there you go. Unless
just,
you're like Pepsi or something. Yeah.
you're right.
'Cause I know
So
there's
Christian, I hope that's
10
been
million.
helpful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. No, seriously, go ahead, Amanda.
I know this is not the most helpful answer, but it's going to depend. It's going to depend on.
No, everybody says that, Amanda.
I
Come
know, but
on.
it's so true. So
Oh,
it depends on whether, you're just getting your foundational brand, like that logo suite, fonts, color palette, and brand guidelines, or whether you're having the designer build out, social media templates, website, print pieces. It depends how much you're tackling. It depends on the designer, how much experience they have, and what prices they're charging. Like you can go to like Fiverr and get somebody to design you like a clip art logo for $50 or something.
right.
So like
Or 5.
there are
Yeah.
ways to do it very cheaply. I don't know that that's the best way, but I would say if you're just looking at like the very foundational pieces, like the logo, the colors, the fonts, the guidelines on how to use it all, I would plan for about 1,500, 2,000. And then depending on how much else you want them to do, it would go up from there.
Okay.
Like for me personally, all my packages are, full branding packages from logo up through website. Is just a different tier of service. So for me, my lowest branding package starts at 3,500. But also I have 16 years of experience and I've really honed what I do. So it depends.
Well, check out this comment. Again,
thank you.
Yeah. Isn't that nice? It's interesting. Some of these folks just show up as LinkedIn users. So I don't know if that
I wish I knew who said that.
Yeah.
Thank you, LinkedIn user.
Yeah. Wait, is it actually your mom, Amanda? You got your mom watching this?
I don't think my mom is on LinkedIn, so no.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So this isn't some secret agent kind of deal, but it goes to show the value of when someone, who knows what they're doing and has been at it for a long time is able to put together. So let me ask an auxiliary question. We're going to wrap up here at 12:30 for anybody who thinks this is just going to go on endlessly. It won't. But to the question about the budget, and maybe you did throw out a couple numbers there. If that is outside of someone's budget, is it okay to go to Canva and just kind of mess with it and start on your own, at least to get going? Do you think?
Yeah, I think like if you're just starting out and you need to get up and running and you don't have the budget to hire a designer, that's fine. You don't have to hire a designer starting out, but I would still really encourage you to sit down and figure out your core brand and use that to guide your whatever designs you're coming up with. Maybe run it by a few people that are in your target audience and see what their opinion of, see if it's communicating what you want it to communicate. Don't just ask like your grandma or your wife or somebody. Make sure the people you're asking are in your target audience. And then use that for a couple of years until you get your feet under you, until you have the budget. And honestly, a lot of times when you're first starting a business, you don't know necessarily what you want your business to be or who you specifically want to work with. Like you'll learn that as you get into the weeds and get into it. Like that was certainly the case for me starting out. So it's perfectly okay to like DIY something and use that for a couple of years. Just again, be intentional with the design. Don't just like slap something and throw it together. And thank you, Derek. You're for your your comment on my website. You put who is the anonymous LinkedIn user.
There we go. Yeah, that's another friend of mine, Derek Pollard, super smart guy. So thank you for clarifying that mystery user. So yeah, I think that's great, and that actually is a broader point when it comes to entrepreneurship in general. Is especially if you're kind of bootstrapping a company, you're starting as a solopreneur and you're growing organically, you're giving it time. Throughout that whole journey, no matter how long it is, there's going to be just different stages where your company is at a different point in terms of revenue, in terms of headcount, where you're naturally going to evolve how much you spend on different things such as branding, who you partner with as a vendor, the size of your customers. All of it kind of has this inchworm effect where you take on your new biggest customer and maybe you lose your smaller ones, but that's just part of that natural progression. So if you start off with Canva, be smart about it and get some good feedback, like Amanda said, but then you keep being intentional about it, and soon you'll be able to afford what Amanda's offering and be able to take your business to the next level. So hopefully that's some great advice. And thank you very much, Amanda, for sharing it. And thank you to anybody listening for putting those questions forward. So, all right. Well, Amanda, any final words before we wrap up?
Just one thing I kind of didn't mention in talking about this, but when you have that core brand figured out and you put it together in like your brand guidelines of what you're trying to achieve with your brand, when you do hire other people, whether, you know, it's a designer or a copywriter or an ads person or a social media manager, whatever, give them that. You know, that's a document you can hand to your vendors, your partners, so that whatever they're producing for you is also aiming at that same strategic target. Like, it just helps everything kind of stay cohesive. So that's an angle to think about as well.
That makes perfect sense. And it seems like the type of thing that will snowball with time. You know, it's kind of has a compounding effect like everything else. Yep. All right. Awesome. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for being a guest on my inaugural strategy session live event.
I'm honored to be the first guest for this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. And again, for anybody listening, the First Gen Entrepreneurs community newsletter and podcast is what I'm working on building. None of it's live yet, so nothing to get too excited. But what I am doing is building a library of content. I'm looking for content partners who can bring their expertise like Amanda has done today. So if you have something that you want to bring to the picnic, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to get you included in that list of folks helping. So thank you for everybody listening. Amanda, thank you again for joining us today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.